Welcome, everybody, into the College Football Payoff podcast. I'm Dan, joined with Big Country as always. Our third week with the podcast. It's week 5 of the college football season, and we're in full swing. I mean, last week was better for me.
Yeah, tough week.
It's all right. You know, I had my tough week, but then everyone has their downfalls, but that means that the only way to go is up now for you. So there was some surprises. I mean, a few pretty good upsets. The one that jumps out at me is Kansas State, Oklahoma again. I was adamant it wasn't going to happen again. I made all my money last year on it, and I wish I would have played it this year because, man, did they make me – they made a lot of people money if you picked that money line, right?
Yeah, I didn't give them out on the pod last week, but I took them on my personal card, and they caused a lot of headache for me last week. I just don't know if they forgot how to play defense between the first and second half or what the deal was. But Spencer Rattler, although he threw 3 picks, he is a star in the making. I mean, I'm going to expect better from Oklahoma going forward. Maybe this is a gap year for playoff contention for them. But, man, just really, really disappointed. Not only in Oklahoma, but just Big 12 football as a whole so far this season.
Yeah, Big 12 football is no defense football and just points everywhere. But when you have no defense and a lot of points being scored, really anything can happen. And, you know, that's what happened. You watch these games and stuff like that happens. It just – there's nothing to explain it. It's just play defense or lose.
Yeah, I mean, we see that coaches like Tom Herman, from Texas have no respect for themselves or their defensive unit. It's laughable how bad they were last week. They had no business winning that game against Texas Tech. I really think that they need to reevaluate. Every team from the Big 12 is lacking this year. The best team I've seen is Oklahoma State. We'll really see if the Big 12 even gets a playoff spot this year. I know at this point, Texas and Oklahoma don't deserve anywhere near there.
So speaking of playoff spots, last year's national champion, LSU, I mean, what in the world happened there? They come out, they gave up 600-plus passing yards.
It's a Mike Leach conference now.
I mean, I understand they have a new defensive coordinator, but Jesus, Murphy.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot. This Bo Pelini guy, former Nebraska head coach, he was a mediocre there the whole time. Went to Youngstown State for a little bit and brought them to a national championship game. But he's really has not been that great of a coach over time. I think Orgeron maybe made a mistake with hiring him. You know exactly what you're going to get when it's Mike Leach. I mean, he's a straight air raid offense. He's one of the pioneers of that offense. Just for them to give up 623 yards in the air is completely unacceptable. They just aren't even near the team they were last year.
Right, and now I'm actually going to talk about that with one of my games coming up. But 600-plus passing yards and the running game was non-existent. So LSU got gashed, and I mean they have a chance to drop out of the top 25 for the first time in it seems like forever. So.
They better get it together quick, or they're going to be unranked by week 4 of their season.
Yep. And speaking of getting it together, let's talk about how we did last week because I hate to do this to you, but 1-7.
Yeah, I gotta face the consequence. 1-7. I just got a little too carried away last week. My one win, Miami, won by 1,000,000 points. I'm happy with that. I gave out Louisiana, Georgia Southern. That was a disgrace. Should have never gave that out. Had no business giving Tennessee, USC under out. Bama, Mizzou. Bama should have covered. They gave up 2 fumbles in the second half. Wasted 12 minutes of time of possession time. With that, they ended up not covering. Texas already said Tom Herman has no respect for himself, his program, or anybody associated with him. See you, Tom Herman. I'll probably not bet Texas unless it's an over for the rest of the season. Miami -11, huge win. They're really impressive this year. WVU lost a bunch of chances to cover. That was our lock fight, so we're now 1-1 on lock fights. And then I watched this Georgia Tech-Syracuse game. I've been pretty good on Georgia Tech the first couple weeks of the season. This is probably even more embarrassing than what Texas Texas's performance was. Syracuse ran all over them. Georgia Tech looked like what they were, a bunch of freshmen starting, maybe a poorly coached team although their coach, fires them up really well. And then last but not least, UCF blowing their cover with a minute left in the game. Really hurt me. It helped you out because you got the over there. But, just got a little carried away. Instead of giving out 8 picks, I'm going to give out 5 this week. They're a lot more concise. So, let's forget what the past is. We're moving forward.
Yeah, and you said it with that UCF game. I went 5-3 this week, so I'm 7-7 overall. The UCF ECU took the over 77.5. They let ECU score that touchdown late, gave me the over. My other winners were Kansas State over 61.5 with Oklahoma. The Army Cincinnati under 45. And then West Virginia Oklahoma State, I had the under 50.5. And I also took the Oklahoma State minus 8.5. That was a fight between you and I. Losses were Bama, Missouri, minus 27. So far we're not doing too hot when we pick together. And then Florida Ole Miss under 59.5. I lost that. And then the money line. It was a close game, but Tennessee ended up beating South Carolina. So to recap, when we're going at it, so far we're 500. So this week is really going to let people know who they need to follow if we're ever disagreeing. And people should never bet with us if we're both in agreement, because that has not fared very well so far.
Until this week.
I like it. All right, so let's get right into them, man. I don't think either of us picked a game for Friday. No, so we're both going on Saturday games, right? You want me to start?
Yep.
We'll start off with South Carolina at number 3, Florida. So Florida, obviously, I've said it last week, I think they're going to win the SEC. I think they are the best team in the SEC. The spread on this game is Florida minus 17.5, over under 57. The last time that these two teams met was last year, actually about a year from today. It was in October of 2019, and Florida walked away 38-27 winners. Kyle Trask, the quarterback for Florida, last week against Ole Miss threw for 416, 6 touchdowns. So he had a fantastic game through the air, and he speaks highly of his tight end. He's already mentioned him in the press, how good he is. He's quickly becoming his favorite target. So when you see that, you kind of feel, okay, he's got a connection with somebody. They should be clicking. And the way he spoke of that tight end, Kyle Pitts, who is 6'6", by the way, said that he is too big for cornerbacks, 6'6", obviously too big for cornerbacks, and he's too fast for linebackers. He is basically uncoverable, is what Trask is saying there. And last week, Pitts caught 8 passes for 170 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was too easy for him last week. He's an athlete. He's a man among boys out there. So, hopefully if that connection can still stay strong, I see them, like you said last week, probably winning the SEC at this point.
Yeah, so I think South Carolina has a tough time with that combination. But the main thing that I see with South Carolina is their offense. They have their quarterback is a transfer quarterback, Colin Hill. He came over with Mike Bobo, the new offensive coordinator from Colorado State, and ended up beating out Ryan Helinski for the starting job. So I kind of think that's it's tough to gel with a new team. You come in as a transfer. It's tough to get with that new team if you're battling COVID protocols and you don't have the full training camp. So I still think there's a lot going on there. And South Carolina's offensive line actually struggled pretty bad in pass protection. And it wasn't really much better with the run game for them. They only averaged 2.5 yards a carry. Florida defense, last week I even said it, their defense probably could be one of the best in the country. And I think they bounce back this week. They stop, they stop South Carolina from running the ball. This new quarterback kind of has a tough time. Florida offense, they put up 642 last week, but I think with their defense giving up over 600 yards, I think that was more of rust than it was of how they can actually play. Looking at a few of the trends for this game, South Carolina 2-15 all time when they play in Gainesville, and the Gators are actually leading the series 28-9-3. South Carolina is 0-4 against the spread versus a team with a winning record, and they're 0-3-1 against the spread in their last 4 as underdogs, while Florida is 5-0 against the spread versus a team with a losing record, and 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 conference games. 3 possessions, I think Florida's defense shows up. They stop South Carolina. I think Trask and Pitts have a big game again, and Florida minus 17.5 is my play.
I like it. I'm staying away from this one, but if I had a lean, it would be with Florida. All right, I'm going to take it down to UAB. I was taking the University of Texas at San Antonio this week, UTSA. They're off to a hot start this year with 3-0, although they've been playing some pretty lackluster competition. This is a principal bet. UAB is minus 20.5 here. They are wearing special jerseys for their relationships with the children's hospitals in Birmingham this week. You know what that means. Automatic cover. But that's not the only reason we're taking them. There are some numbers to back this up. So they beat the University of South Alabama last week 42-10. That's a pretty fast offense, a pretty productive offense. And UAB walked in and shut them down with no problem. They held their quarterback to 168 passing yards on a under 50% completion percentage. And then their running back, Spencer Brown, had 105 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. He broke the school record for career rushing touchdowns with his 36th rushing touchdown. And then they had Austin Watkins, their star wide receiver, go for 183 yards and a touchdown. This is a star-studded team when we're talking about the Conference USA. They produced over 500 yards of offense last week with a backup quarterback. So their talent is pretty deep for their conference. And then University of Texas San Antonio gave up 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns last week. They were lucky to escape with a 2-point victory over Middle Tennessee State, who might be the worst team in college football this year. They escaped out of that one. Their 3-0 record is very misleading as they've only played Texas State and Middle Tennessee and Army. But they gave up 48 points to Texas State, and SFA. But they gave up 48 points to Texas State and 35 to Middle Tennessee State. This defense might be non-existent. They're lucky they have a high-powered offense. UTSA will not go 4-0. So with UTSA probably regressing from what their high-production offense has been and UAB playing for more than just a football game, give me UAB minus 20.5.
All right, UAB minus 20.5, you said?
Yes.
Okay, I like it. I don't know much about either team, and I don't like Texas San Antonio, so I'm just going to steer clear of that. I'll stay with my my big boy schools, right? And we'll take it. I'm surprised you're actually not playing this with Baylor at West Virginia, minus 3 for Baylor, over-under set at 53.5. Baylor's new head coach, Dave Aranda, he had to wait a pretty long time to start his first season, and it looked like the wait was well worth it. Baylor scored 40 consecutive points at one point and just absolutely demolished the Kansas team 47-14. Baylor, they kept Kansas to 159 yards through the air. They forced 6 punts. So Baylor was ready to play, and it could tell, with how long they had to wait with COVID and their first 2 games getting postponed. And it actually helped because Charlie Brewer, their star quarterback, he only needed to throw the ball 23 times. So when you look at his stat line, 142 yards, 1 touchdown, you think, oh, is he really that good? They didn't have to throw the ball, right? They destroyed Kansas, and the running back, John Lovett, he had 17 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown. That there, too, it doesn't seem like much, right?
No.
But they didn't need much to win that game. They also had a freshman run the ball 5 times for 61 yards and a touchdown, Craig Williams. So, that right there kind of puts a little into context that they have a kind of a 2-headed monster there. In the making, I should say. It's not fully there yet. Looking over to West Virginia, they were beat up pretty bad by Oklahoma State. I mean, the score doesn't reflect it. It was 27-13. Oklahoma State won. But Oklahoma State had two pretty long touchdowns. One was a 66-yard run, the other 56-yard scoop and score. And, I mean, that right there just put the game, it was done. You didn't need anything else. The one bright spot that came from it was the only West Virginia touchdown of the game. It was a 70-yard touchdown pass from Jarrett Dodge to Winston Wright. That was late in the first half. So you kind of feel they didn't have much of an offensive plan. Their offense wasn't clicking. They score that late touchdown in the first half, but nothing comes of it after that. Quarterback did go 20 for 37, 285, and a TD. But his QBR was only 62.5. And this week he's going up against a pretty confident defense that last week only gave up 160 passing yards. So they're confident. Baylor 6-0 against the spread in the last 6 conference games, 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 road games, and 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 overall. They're also on a 6-game winning streak against the conference. And when you look at West Virginia's trends, the one that sticks out is they're just not a good underdog team. They're 0-3-1 against the spread in the last 4 as a home underdog. And they're also 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 games. I'm not sure if West Virginia has fans at the stadium. I don't think they do. No fans at the stadium in West Virginia.
Not yet.
So, not yet, but if they had a shot at winning, it was that they were going to have fans this week. So, Baylor -3 is my play. I'm sorry, but I just don't think West Virginia has it.
It's all good. I was looking at highlights this week of their first matchup a couple years ago when the Mountaineers won 70-63 with Geno Smith at the helm at quarterback there. I was actually at that game. That was probably the most fun game I've ever watched in person in my life. When these two teams get together, they play a really good game. West Virginia almost beat a really good Baylor team last year. Neil Brown's kind of finding his way through the Big 12. I can't really pick a side here, so I like the Baylor pick.
All right. Let's see. We're going to move on with your next pick. What do you got for me?
I'm going on down back to Central Florida after they screwed me last week. They're playing Tulsa. They're laying 21.5 points. The reason I'm going back to Central Florida after that terrible performance and bad beat last week is because there's no way they play that bad again. They started the game last week with 4 consecutive false start penalties. They ended the first quarter with 7 false start penalties and 10 total penalties. They shot themselves in the foot every which way they can. Additionally, they forced 3 turnovers in the first half last week. You know how many points that came out to? 3. 1 point per turnover they're turning around. There's no way that number stays the same. They're going to regress back from whatever bad play they've been playing. And then Tulsa, there's a lot of uncertainty around them. Yeah, they played a great game against Oklahoma State, but they were just benefiting off of a really weak backup quarterback room that Mike Gundy has under him. Their quarterback, Zach Smith, only threw for 165 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And their game last week got postponed against Arkansas State. So they might be a little rusty coming out of the gate there. And then when we look back on the other side of the ball, UCF at quarterback Dylan Gabriel, dark horse for the Heisman this year. Through 2 games, he already has 825 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, and 1 interception. They're just a super high-powered offense. They blew the cover last week because their third-string defense didn't play with any pride. Pretty much just let East Carolina walk in, giving you the over, actually.
I was excited about that.
But don't expect Tulsa to be able to keep up with this air raid UCF offense. They're firing on all cylinders right now. Tulsa just simply doesn't have the talent to keep up with them for 4 quarters. Even if they're up by 1 touchdown going into the 4th, I still love this bet. Give me UCF minus 21.5.
Yeah, and I looked at this. I was thinking UCF, but when I see a spread that big, I mean, I don't know. I don't feel confident with it. Over-under is my play in games with spreads that big, but like last week. That scared me away from it a little bit, saying I had to wait until the end of the game to finally hit that over. So I was biting my nails, but I think I'm going to stay away from that one. And I'm going to stick with the little Big 12 action. Oklahoma State against Kansas. Oklahoma State's favored 21 points, and the over-under is set at 54. Talking about getting worried, I am starting to get a little bit worried about Oklahoma State's offense. Quarterback Spencer Sanders is still out with that ankle sprain.
Is he out this week?
We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Gundy doesn't release too much information. If that kid plays, I like the pick. I mean, if not, it's going to be 50-50 with Illingworth back there.
Okay, so that's kind of what I was thinking, but the more I looked at it, even without him in the game, I think Chuba Hubbard hasn't been as explosive as everyone thought. And it almost seems like he's one breakout run away from, exploding into the scene.
Yeah, he showed flashes last week for sure. I mean, he is the rock of that team right now.
And they do have another running back there, LD Brown. Now he's been somewhat of a bright spot for him. He's averaging 8.4 a carry, and kind of him and Chuba Hubbard back in the backfield is almost like I said, it's almost a two-headed monster. It's starting to build. I think the offensive problems may be solved this week because of who they are playing. That's the Kansas Jayhawks. Kansas is not a football school. They're basketball. Okay. The head coach at Kansas, I have a personal connection with, Les Miles. All right. A lot of you know Les Miles from his days at LSU, winning championships. He graduated from the high school I went to, so I know Les Miles. I know what he is. I know who he is. He was actually gonna be the head football coach at my high school before Kansas offered him the job. Think about that for just 1 second, all right? This guy was set to coach a high school football team in Northeast Ohio, and then Kansas, a Big 12 school, offered him a job.
I would have rather taken the high school job than the coach at Kansas.
And I bet that's what he's thinking about right now. Yeah. But that's what he does. He gets into these schools and he tries to build them up. So he's still in that rebuilding stage. Kansas, they just don't have it all there. What they do have, they have good running backs, Puka Williams and Velton Gardner. Those two have accounted for 3 of Kansas's 5 touchdowns this year. Kansas has scored 5 touchdowns. I mean, the big problem is at quarterback. They've played, 3 games? They've played 3 quarterbacks. One of them being a true freshman, Jalen Daniels. The other 2, Thomas McVitie and Miles Kendrick. They've both played here and there, but they can't find that solid set quarterback yet. So if you don't have a quarterback, your offense has no identity, right? And the defense for Oklahoma State, it could whoever plays quarterback for Kansas, it could pose a big problem because the Cowboys have only given up 10 points per game. And talking about the Jayhawks defense, they've been gashed on the ground. They give up 194 yards on the ground per game. So this is what I'm talking about with Chuba Hubbard. He's going to have his one breakout run that kind of sets him free, right? I think Oklahoma State this week runs for a lot. I think Chuba gets close to 200 yards rushing in this game, and that'll kind of put him on the right path. So looking at all that and the few trends, I'm a big trends guy this week. I found a lot of trends that, favor my picks, so why not throw them out there? Kansas, 1-5 against their spread in the last 6. 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 against Big 12 teams. Oklahoma State, 12-4 against the spread in their last 16 games. 5-0 against the spread in the last 5 against Kansas, and 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 road games. I want Oklahoma State minus 21.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State's probably the only side I can take here. I respect Les Miles a lot as a coach, national championship winner at LSU, but there's a reason he got fired from LSU. He couldn't keep up with the SEC anymore. He wasn't able to adapt. I kind of think he's still in the same boat here. Maybe it is better for him to go coach at a high school gig. But yeah, on to the next game. I think I'm going to take us down to Tuscaloosa, and I think we both have this one.
Oh, yeah, we do.
I'm going to take Bama minus 17 right off the bat against Texas A&M for a lot of reasons here. Texas A&M last week, super disappointing outing against Vanderbilt, only won 17-2. Kellen Mond, who the experts seem to think is this great quarterback Heisman candidate, he's been a fraud for 3 straight years, just wasting Jimbo Fisher's 10-year contract away. Only threw it for 189 yards and a touchdown last week against Vanderbilt, and they just relied heavily on the run. If they think that strategy is going to work this week against Bama, that's just completely idiotic. Bama will stuff 9 people in the box if they want to run the whole game, and Bama does outsize them, and Bama will stuff the ball at the line 90% of the time. Bama last week actually played really well. They were the Alabama we all thought we knew. Started the game super fast. Came out the gate 28-3 at halftime. But they were unable to cover later in the game just because of the twos not really being that sharp on the field or sharp in the game. They lost 2 fumbles in the second half, like we said earlier. Off those drives, they wasted 12 minutes of possession time. But those mistakes will regress, especially you can count on that with a Nick Saban-led team. I like Bama at home this week. Give me Bama. What do you think about this?
Yeah, we're in the same boat. We're gonna stick with Bama, and this is gonna be the first week that we get a pick, right?
Yeah, Bama's gonna cover this week. Jimbo Fisher's frustrated. Texas A&M had 5 starters opt out this year also. So, I mean, don't expect them to be the hype train that everybody thinks they are.
Right, and don't look at the rankings for teams just yet because they still don't have Big Ten teams in there. A&M would not be that high if there was other conferences, okay?
Not hardly.
Right, so a few things that I had that I wanted to touch up on. Bama, last week they beat up on Missouri through the 3 quarters and just kind of they took the pedal off the metal,
Mm-hmm.
Metal off the pedal, same thing, whatever you want to say.
Foot off the gas.
I don't care.
hybrid 100 miles per gallon type.
Yeah, just making up stuff. So while that was going on, Texas A&M barely beat Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt is terrible.
They're worse than Arkansas.
All right, that game was 17-12.
Yeah.
How? How do you play like that against Vanderbilt? Like the way they've played, they haven't been a top 15 team. I don't even think A&M is a top 20 team right now.
Agreed.
So last week they were a 31.5-point favorite. They won by 5. And you know what? It actually took a late interception in the 4th quarter to seal the victory. What does that tell? That's just this team's not. Bama. Saban was not happy that they took their foot off the gas.
No.
So what do you think he's going to do this week? He's going to really shove it to an SEC opponent and a team that's ranked in the top 15. Yeah, there's also going to be 20,000 fans at Bryant-Denny Stadium. A&M is 1-4 against the spread versus a team with a winning record, 2-4 against the spread in their last 6 games. And they're 1-5 against the spread after scoring less than 20 points in their previous game. Bama, 5-0 against the spread following a loss against the spread the previous week. So Bama, minus 17. This is the week that we're gonna start a roll, me and you.
Yes,
right?
We agree. We will win.
All right.
So.
Okay, so what do we want to do next here? I got one. You want me to take this one?
Yeah, let's go to Virginia Tech Duke for you.
All right. Virginia Tech Duke, 10.5-point favorites are Virginia Tech. Over-unders at 53. Virginia Tech in their season opener, a pretty good win, 45-24 against NC State. This was all while having 23 players and 4 coaches out due to COVID. So they're missing a good chunk of their team, and they still put up a double-digit victory. This pick isn't really for Virginia Tech as much as it is against Duke.
Fade Duke.
Yes, absolutely.
Chase Bryce is a fraud.
And it shows because Duke, they're still winless on the season. they've just looked god-awful. I'll never pick for a team that is winless, right? If they have the spread, I'll fade winless teams all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, and their team, its defense is just there to be there and say they're on a team, while the offense actually does look like a high school offense, and they make so many mistakes all the time. It's tough to watch at some point. I would rather watch Elaria High School play.
Yes, I would too.
They scored, let me see where I got it, 6 points. 6 points against Boston College. They couldn't get anything going on the ground against Virginia, and they also have a problem with turnovers. In 3 games, they've had 14 turnovers. That's 5 against Boston College, 7 against Virginia. 5 of them were interceptions. And, with turnovers and the Duke defense not being able to stop a passing attack, I think this is a very easy win for Virginia Tech. Although Virginia Tech is still not 100% healthy, that could play into actually a lower score too. So I was kind of looking at the under 53.
Yeah, with how bad Duke's offense has been, I would love that bet, to be honest. I don't think I'm going to take it because I haven't looked into it too much, but the under 53, especially with the way Chase Bryce has been playing and how surprising Virginia Tech was last week, may be the play here.
So what I'm doing, actually, we're going on the fly here. I'm going to go Virginia Tech minus 10.5 and the under 53 in this game.
Okay. 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good play. Virginia Tech's 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 conference games, and Duke is 1-5 against their spread in their last 6 games following a loss against the spread. So Virginia Tech minus 10.5 and under 53. I'm confident.
I like it. I'm leaning with you. I'm not all the way in with you.
That's fine. You don't have to be.
Alrighty. We're going to take it down to Mississippi State. We're going to double dip with them this week. I didn't give them out on the pod last week. I got a nice little tip before the game, along with Derek Stingley being sat. Took a money line. You can say whatever you want. No, you didn't. Yeah, I did. Okay, plus 600. Cash it. Saved my weekend after an atrocious record. But yeah, I love this Mike Leach offense. I'm going to ride with Mike Leach. The SEC's never seen the air raid before. They only have 1 game of film on him. Costello, 623 yards against LSU. Like, what's going to... Are you going to bet Arkansas this game? No. This is obviously a Mississippi State side if you're going to take this game. Along with the air raid, Costello did throw 2 picks, but he's also going against Arkansas this week. Arkansas is a transfer quarterback. I think you've heard of him before. His name's Felipe Franks. Former starter at Florida. Kyle Trask ran him right out of town. This kid's super cocky, really cocky for only completing 50% of his passes for 200 yards and a touchdown and 2 picks last week. 43.6 QBR. Very unlikable guy. Additionally, Arkansas only had 77 rushing yards on 28 attempts. That averages at about 2.8 yards a carry. And they couldn't even stop a Georgia offense. Although they did give up a good fight, Georgia still ended up winning pretty handedly. Georgia was without their first-string quarterback, so they had to play their second and third stringer. Arkansas couldn't find an answer for that. You think you're going to be able to do that against Mississippi State, you're out of your mind. I mean, I'm riding with Mike Leach. Give me Mississippi State minus 18 at his first game at home.
I mean, I was looking at that game for a while today, too, and just kind of thinking, man, I like to play. I want to play it. The more that you talk about Mike Leach and the air raid offense coming into the SEC, I really want to play it. This might be something that I just... Early Saturday morning, I wake up and I'm like, let's do it. I pull the trigger.
Impulse bet.
Yeah, but I'm not going to put it on the card. I'll let you have your glory with that one.
Thank you.
Okay, so I got one more play here, and it's SEC again. It's LSU minus 20 at Vanderbilt. Over/under set at 48.5. I mean, Vanderbilt's just terrible. And last year, this game was 66-38 LSU. Now, here's where my thinking is what happened last week and who is the head coach. LSU's coming off a disappointing opening week, losing that game after winning a national championship, and Ed Orgeron is not going to let this one get away from him. All right, he knows who he's playing this week. He knows he's got to put up a statement win. He's got to let everyone know that LSU isn't just a Joe Burrow team, right? They can win with anybody. It was the first game for LSU's new defensive coordinator, Bo Pelini. It was not like it wasn't what he was looking for. Obviously, he was upset. He didn't feel good about the loss. LSU last week did not have that All-American cornerback, Derek Stingley Jr. This week, it sounds like he is back.
Yeah, he will be playing. He was hospitalized last week with an illness unrelated to COVID. LSU's wasn't too transparent with their COVID reporting over the summer, so who actually knows what he had? But with him being back, you can count on them to be a lot better. True,
and that defense, with him being back, I don't think they're going to give up 600-plus passing yards. They are facing a Vanderbilt offense that put up an astonishing, great number, 255 yards against Texas A&M. That's 3.8 yards per play.
Yeah, I think that almost says more about Texas A&M and how bad they are since they struggled so hard to beat them.
So Vanderbilt's terrible. This week, bringing Stingley back, that's 6 interceptions, 15 pass breakups from last year, coming back into your secondary. Couple that with the struggling offense from Vanderbilt. Freshman quarterback at Vanderbilt, Ken Seals, I don't think he's going to be able to put up a third of what Mississippi State did with the 623 and AJ Costello. Not to mention LSU's rushing defense I think they're going to be able to hold the Commodores at bay. They gave up less than 10 yards rushing last week. So I don't think it'll be less than 10 yards this week, but I don't think it's going to be over 100. I think they hold them pretty well. I think they give up maybe in the 200, low 200, mid to high 200 yards total offense. But I think this is a blowout. I think the LSU Tigers win big. They're 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 road games, 5-1 against the spread in their last 6, following a loss against the spread. And they're also 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games after allowing more than 450 total yards in the previous game. How about that for a trend?
I love that
I go
trend.
out and find it. Vandy, 1-6 against the spread versus a team with a losing record, which that doesn't really mean much, I don't think. 0-1. They're 1-8 against the spread in their last 9 as a home underdog. So LSU -20, I think Orgeron comes out and he just has a great game, and you'll hear him yell, "Go Tigers!"
I like that. I like that pick a lot. That might be a Saturday morning impulse bet for me. But,
there we go. Do you got one more?
I got one more. I saved my best for last, actually. If you could put a little lock emoji, if we had a video right now, I'd put a little lock emoji over my head. I really, really like this bet, and I've been looking at it all week. Line hasn't moved too much, but where we're going is down to Death Valley. We're gonna watch this Clemson UVA or Virginia game, prime time. The over for this game is 55. Now I don't know if Vegas knows something that I don't, which they always do, obviously, but this number just sticks out to me. If I can read the board, I'm reading this one with 20/20 vision. So Clemson's coming off a week's rest. So they've had 2 weeks to prepare their offense for this UVA defense. UVA beat Duke last week, but they put up 38 points against a pretty average Duke defense. Duke's real problem is their offense. Virginia's quarterback Armstrong threw 45 times last week. This is a higher-paced offense. They're going to air it out. And Clemson at home may be able to play, since it's a home game, they may be able to play those 4th and 5th string players if they get up enough. But also, if we look a little bit deeper, this year with the COVID protocols going on, Virginia, in away opponents, can only travel 60 players. If you're thinking that you have your 1 and 2 deeps, that's 44 players on offense and defense already. So they're not going to have much room for playing 3rd and 4th strings if the game really gets out of hand. What I see this as an advantage to is that when Clemson, who we already know we can't as bettors trust their 2 deep this year, if those 2s and 3s for Clemson get in against those 2s for UVA, You can expect some points on the board to be thrown up, especially since it doesn't seem like there's too big of a talent delta this year between the two. Trevor Lawrence, flawless season so far. Expect him to run it up. I think alone Clemson's good for between 40 and 49 points. So let's just get a touchdown or two out of UVA, and I think we got an over here. Lock me up for the over 55. I love it.
So that is your lock of the week. You're guaranteed full-blown 100%. Put the house on this lock of the week.
Big country bet the farm.
I like that.
It's a
Big
cash
country
cow
bet
for you.
the farm. So that's it for your card, huh?
Yeah, I'm done. I don't have a money line sprinkle this week,
But I do.
Yeah.
All right. So
let's see what we got this week.
last week, that's a tough loss. South Carolina, Tennessee. I thought they had it. It's a very close game. So I'm okay with being 1-1 right now. This week, I'm going to get to 2-1. I'm really confident with this one. This is a Service Academy showdown. Air Force against Navy.
Attention.
Now, people are talking about this game with the line moving up because starting quarterback for Air Force, Donald Hammond III, is not playing. They said at the beginning of the year he's not a cadet. That's
They
fit.
threw him off right off the team.
Basically kicked him out of the Air Force.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But this is Service Academy football, so what good is a quarterback? And does Navy really have a quarterback? It goes hand in hand. But the things that I look at, games in Colorado Springs, so that's high altitude. If you're a football player and you're not used to that, and it's a running game and you're in the trenches, that's going to be a tough game. The last time that these teams played in Colorado Springs was in 2018. Air Force kicked the shit out of Navy.
True.
35-7.
True.
Navy this year has only played one good half of football in 2 games. I think they struggled here in Colorado Springs. I think they're gasping for air on the sidelines. I don't think they do well. I'm taking Air Force plus 210. We're going to get to 2-1 on the money line. It's going to save some people. It's going to boost your winnings, and then we can come back next week and probably have another big money line pick.
Yeah. I like the pick here. I mean, Navy you don't know what you're going to get. They were so atrocious against BYU. They actually screwed me 2 weeks ago playing Tulane. I mean, I live bet them at halftime, and then they just came out and annihilated them in the second half. But you don't know what team we're going to get. There's so much uncertainty around this game that I love the play.
All right, so there's our cards for the week. I'll go ahead and recap what I got. We got Florida minus 17.5, Baylor minus 3, Alabama minus 17, Oklahoma State minus 21, Virginia Tech minus 10.5 and the under 53, LSU minus 20, and then the money line sprinkle play of the week, Air Force plus 210. What do you got?
Big country official picks for Week 5 of college football season 2020. I got 5 picks for you. UAB minus 20.5 versus Texas San Antonio. Bama minus 17 versus Texas A&M. Central Florida minus 21.5 versus Tulsa. Mississippi State and that Mike Leach air raid minus 18 versus Arkansas. And then for my guaranteed cash cow, Clemson, Virginia over 55. Give it to me.
All right, and this week we're going to start our first combined, Alabama pick. We're both going to win that one.
Yes.
And we're going to start a little trend going there so that we start winning when we're on the same page.
Yeah, we'll get that down for you guys. I gave you 5 picks this week, so it's actually impossible for me to go 1-7. So, listen, like, subscribe. We're going to be back next week with another great board. Let's roll, guys.
All right, and be on the lookout. We just had some stickers come in. We're going to be posting those everywhere.
Yes.
Like, subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Look for us on wherever you get your podcasts. We will be publishing those through Buzzsprout here shortly. But for now, let's just sit back and watch some college football. And we're 1 week closer to Big Ten football, by the way.
Yep. Play us, fade us, as long as you're listening.
All right, everyone. For Big Country, I'm Dan. Have a good day and happy betting.